So welcome back. I am using SQL Server 2017 Management Studio to connect to SQL Server 2016. So let's first create a SQL demo database and use that. So to continue with the dynamic data masking demo, let's first create a users table. On users table, I have defined the masked with syntax and I have used the partial function and it will display the first two column and last two column, and on the salary column I have defined random function. It will mask the salary column values by random value between the specified values in the random function, and date of birth column will be masked with the default value of date time, and phone column will be masked with the default value of the envarchar. Similarly, email function will be masked with the email function that we have specified on this column. So let's create table with this masking syntax. SQL Server provides the sys.masked column view to see the masked column values and which masking function is applied on that particular column. So let's query sys.masked column. So we can see on the users table we have first name, salary, date of birth, phone and email function and corresponding masking function defined on those columns. So let's populate user table with some dummy data. So I have inserted 3 rows in the users table. So let's query user table.